بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. في محاضرة اليوم سوف نتكلم عن رواية بنات الرياض للكاتبة السعودية رجاء الصانع. رجاء الصانع Girls of Riyadh. رجاء الصانع Girls of Riyadh examines the status of women in Saudi Arabia and how patriarchy, double moral standards, tribal mentality, social hypocrisy violate their basic human rights as represented in the novel. The Girls of Riyadh can be seen as an awakening call for enhancing, improving women's rights in Saudi Arabia, and visionary in its scope in the light of Arab Spring, which is raging through the Arab world. So when we come to discuss Girls of Riyadh, it is about the status of women in Saudi Arabia. It is about how women are affected by patriarchy, double moral standards, tribal mentality, social hypocrisy, which violate the basic human rights. So when we talk about women's rights, we are mainly talking about human rights. Girls of Riyadh can be seen as an awakening call or as an alarm bell for enhancing, improving, and consolidating women's rights in Saudi Arabia. The novel can be seen as a visionary in its scope. In the light of Arab Spring, it is a spring of changes which is raging through the Arab world. Girls of Riyadh about status of women in Saudi Arabia and about patriarchy, double moral standards, tribal mentality. It seemed to me and to many other Saudis, this quotation is from the novel itself. It seemed to me and to many other Saudis that the Western world still perceives us either romantically as the land of the Arabian Nights and the land where bearded sheikhs sit in their tents surrounded by their beautiful harem women, or politically as the land that gave birth to Bin Laden and other terrorists. The land where women are dressed in the black from head to toe, and where every house has its own oil well in the backyard. This is the vision of the Western world about Saudi Arabia. He sees us either romantically as the land of Arabian Nights or a land where bearded sheikhs, rich ones, sitting in their tents surrounded by their beautiful harem women, or politically as the land that gave birth to terrorists, a land that gave birth to Bin Laden and other terrorists, a land where women are dressed in black from head to toe, and every house has its own oil well, expressing wealth in the backyard. This quotation from the novel itself. As I said, the novel examines the status of women in Saudi Arabia. It's about patriarchy, double moral standards, tribal mentality, traditions, social hypocrisy that violate their basic human rights as represented in the novel. Rajaa Alsanea, Girls of Riyadh can be seen as an awakening call for improving, enhancing, consolidating women's rights in Saudi Arabia, and visionary in its scope in the light of the Arab Spring, which is raging through the Arab world. Rajaa Alsanea, Girls of Riyadh is not only an endeavor or a trial to shatter, deconstruct stereotypes perceived about Saudi women living in Saudi Arabia, but also sheds light on the status of Saudi women and their struggles to negotiate their survival in a patriarchal oppressive society still ruled by traditions, customs, and misuse of religion. So the novel is not a trial to deconstruct and shatter stereotypes perceived about Saudi women who live in Saudi Arabia, but also sheds light on the status of Saudi women, their struggles, and the challenges they face in their process of survival in a patriarchal, oppressive society still ruled and governed by tribal traditions, customs, and misuse of religion. Within this context, Rajaa Alsanea writes the novel or the book is not intended to represent all girls in Riyadh, but it is designed to draw back the veil and reveal another side of the Saudi life to the Western world. So the aim of the book is not to represent all women and all girls in Riyadh, the capital of Saudi Arabia, but it's designed to draw back the veil and get the attention to reveal another side of the Saudi life to the Western world, that side which is unknown to the Western world. In this regard, Nawal Sadawi, the writer and the critic, stresses the urgent need for rereading the Arab history from the viewpoint of Arab women, so though they can be aware that the struggle of Arab women against sexual, national, and class oppression is not a newly born, is not a new issue, and that the Arab women's movement doesn't come from the void, doesn't come from nothing, and is not modeled on women's movement in the West, but is evident throughout the course of Arab and Islamic history, extending over 14th century. So, Nawal Sadawi says and argues within this context the need for rereading the Arab history from the viewpoint of Arab women, so they can be aware that the struggle of Arab women and the challenges they face against sexual, national, and class oppression is not newly born, and that the Arab women's movement doesn't come from the void, doesn't come from nothing, but it is not modeled or imitation on of women's movement in the West, but is evident through the course of Arab and Islamic history, is evident throughout the reality of Arab and Islamic history extending over 14th century. What makes Rajaa Alsanea Girls of Riyadh unique, explosive, and illuminating for readers in Saudi Arabia in particular, and the Western world in general, is its daring treatment of urgent issues, which are considered taboo in Saudi Arabian society, and for giving voice to the voiceless majority of Saudi women by a female voice from within. So what makes Rajaa Alsanea Girls of Riyadh unique, explosive, and illuminating, enlightening for readers in Saudi Arabia in particular, and the Western world in general, is its daring treatment of urgent issues which are considered taboo in Saudi Arabian society, and for giving voice to the voiceless majority of Saudi women by female voice from within. And this may account for banning the Girls of Riyadh from being published in Saudi Arabia. Some people got angry from the novel. They refused to get it published in Saudi Arabia. And that is the reason, and this may account for the banning of Rajaa Alsanea Girls of Riyadh from being published in Saudi Arabia, because it tackles with urgent issues which are considered taboo. Taboo means that we cannot discuss these issues. These issues are sensitive and they cannot be discussed in the Saudi Arabian society. Within this context, Miriam Abdullah said that Alsanea, Girls of Riyadh, caused a ruckus in Saudi Arabia, caused a commotion, uproar. Everybody is talking about the novel. The novel was banned outright by Saudi coast because it incited vices and subverted the foundations of Saudi literary tradition. So, according to the legal system in Saudi Arabia, according to the Saudi court system, they banned the novel outright because they think it incited vices and it shook the foundations of the Saudi literary tradition, and it is against the traditions and the mentality of the Saudi society. In Girls of Riyadh, Asana tackles urgent issues such as love relationships between men and women, gender segregation, status of divorced woman, and how she is perceived by the Arabian society, oppressive patriarchal traditions and customs banning women from driving, rising number of educated women, and their impact on the traditional and conservative life in Saudi Arabia while seeking a position in the Saudi society. So when we talk about Girls of Riyadh, we talk about tackling urgent and important issues such as one, love relationship between men and women, two, gender segregation, three, the status of the divorced women and how she is perceived by the Saudi Arabian society, four, oppressive patriarchal traditions and customs, five, banning women from driving, six, the rising number of educated women and their impact on the traditional and conservative life in Saudi Arabia. These are the six issues tackled by Girls of Riyadh, and there are also other issues. You will find it in the novel. Girls of Riyadh starts with a narrator, an unknown girl who is the administrator of a subscribing group on the internet. She has a clear intention to talk about the stories of her girlfriends who are imprisoned behind the black walls and whose lives and potential are wasted in the name of rigid conservative traditions and customs. Normally, in a traditional society, we hear from the male, but we don't hear much from the female. She broke that barrier by subscribing to a group on the internet like WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, and the narrator has, who is a female, she has a clear intention to talk about the stories of her girlfriends. Each one of them has her own story. Those girlfriends are imprisoned behind the black walls. They are not allowed to talk publicly. They are not allowed to practice their life normally, and whose lives and potential are wasted in a patriarchal society in the name of rigid conservative traditions and customs. Girls of Riyadh, the narrator doesn't only give voice to her four girlfriends, but also to thousands of women whose stories are marginalized, buried, and never heard about. So it is not about only giving voice to the four girlfriends, but also a reflection to the thousands of women whose stories are marginalized, buried, silenced, and never heard about. The unknown girl or the narrator says, this quotation from the novel itself, I shall write of my girlfriends, for in each one's tale I see my story and self prevail, a tragedy, my own life speaks. I shall write of my girlfriends, of inmates' lives, sucked dry by jail and magazine pages that consume women's time, and of the doors that fail to open, of desires slain in their cradles. I shall write of the vast great cell, black walls of trivial, of thousands and thousands of martyrs, all female, buried, stripped of their names in the graveyard of the traditions. So the narrator makes it clear about her intention to reveal and to give voice to the thousands of women, thousands of Arab, Saudi women, and other women whose stories are marginalized, whose stories are silenced, buried, and never heard about. So she starts her novel strongly by saying, I shall write of my girlfriend, for in each one's tale I see my story, and self prevail, a tragedy. My own life speaks. I shall write of my girlfriends, of inmates' life sucked dry by jail, magazine pages that consume one's time, and of the doors that fail to open, of desires slain in their cradles aright, of the vast great cell, black walls of trivial, of thousands and thousands of martyred old female, buried stripped of their names in the graveyard of a tradition. The unknown, the unknown girl narrates the story of her four girlfriends: Jamra, Al-Qasmanji, Sadeem, Al-Huramli, Michelle, Abdurrahman, and Lamis. These are the four girlfriends. And Lamis Jeddah, through sending emails to her subscribing group every Friday in Saudi Arabia. By using the internet as an effective means of communication, the narrator's motivation is to expose the tyranny of life and society against her friend by spreading the word for millions of readers in 1 second. Using the internet to reveal the suffering of the Saudi woman, using the internet to give voice to the voiceless majority, using the internet as an effective means of communication. The narrator's motivation is to expose and reveal the tyranny of life and Saudi society against her girlfriends by spreading the word, by letting the world know, and millions of readers in 1 second. Now we will watch a video and interview with the writer Rajaa Alsanea, and she's talking about her novel Girls of Riyadh.
رجاء عبد الله الصانع، طبيبة أسنان، استشارية علاج أعصاب وجذور، متخرجة من ولاية إلينوي، جامعة إلينوي في شيكاغو. دكتورة، في البداية حابين نتعرف على طفولتك أكثر، عن مجال دراستك، وهل اخترت الشيء اللي تحبيه أو لا؟ أنا من أسرة كلها أطباء، أشقائي 5 الأكبر مني، أنا صغيرة، كلهم أطباء بين طب بشري وجراحين وأطباء أسنان، فكان دائما خيار الدراسة في الطب البشري أو الأسنان مطروحة. هوايتي كانت من الطفولة هي الكتابة، فتشجيع الأسرة وتشجيع المدرسة دائما إني أكتب يخلي فكرة إني أكون كاتبة في المستقبل برضو مطروحة للنقاش. طيب، يعني اخترت الشيء اللي تحبيه؟ طبعا اخترت شيئين أحبهم. يعني بالنسبة لي الطب كان يستهويني، لكن كنت أحس إنه شوية جامد، ما فيه الحس الإبداعي اللي أنا أحبه في الكتابة. فتوصلت للنتيجة إنه أقدر أسوي شيئين، مثلا غازي قصيبي الله يرحمه.
يمكن إحنا يعني تعودنا على مقولة صاحب بالك كذاب، فعلشان كذي إحنا صرنا نفكر إنه إذا إحنا ما ركزنا في حاجة واحدة ما تكون يعني بيقول مصيرنا إلى الفشل. هو مو صحيح.
هو بصراحة أحيانا المرضى يستغربون، يعني أحيانا المرضى يعتقدون إذا أنا مشهورة معناته ماني طبيبة كويسة، أو مثلا إذا أنا طبيبة كويسة معقولة أنت اللي كتبتي الكتاب؟ فتلاقيني دائما في أسئلة مضحكة يعني تجيني من المرضى، لكن أنا حرصت إني أتميز في المجالين.
طيب أكيد في معلومات مغلوطة في كل تخصص من التخصصات الطبية ودائما تكثر على الإشاعات، في معلومات أنت ودك تصححيها عن مجالك اللي هو طب الأسنان؟
والله في مرضى أحيانا يجوني يقولون ما عندنا ألم فليش نروح للدكتور؟ أحيانا روحتك للدكتور هي اللي تجنبك الألم. صعب انك تقول والله من كم سنه انا ما شيكت على اسناني فما في داعي اروح للدكتور. لما نجي نفحصها نلاقي فيها اشياء كثيره مبينه بالاشعه مثلا المريض مو حاس فيها، فليه ننتظر الى ان المساله تسوء وتوصل لمرحله الحاجه الى سحب عصب او جراحه، فيما بين انه لو كنا نراجع بشكل مستمر كان ممكن ينتهي الموضوع بحشوه بسيطه او تنظيف جير، شيء يعني يكون نتجنب فيه تطورات كثيرة.
في أمراض تدل يعني مثلا سقوط أسنان أو تسوس أو حاجة مرض آخر يكون مرض عضوي آخر؟
في أمراض تؤثر على الأسنان، وفي مشاكل في الأسنان تزيد من بعض الأمراض، مثلا أمراض القلب. ممكن البكتيريا اللي تجي من الأسنان تنتقل إلى الدم وتأثر على القلب وتسبب سوء في حالة المريض.
طيب حصلتي على المركز 37 من أقوى الشخصيات تحت سن 40، وش يعني لك هذا؟
يعني لأنه الحمد لله أنا ماشية صح في خطتي كرجاء الصانع، يعني ما مثلا اهتميت بس بالطب وتركت هوايتي، ما اهتميت بهوايتي وتركت مجال عملي. الجمع بين الاثنين صعب، الجمع بين النجاح في أكثر من مجال في حياتك صعب. فالحمد لله بالعكس هذا شيء يعني يحسسني إني ماشية صح، وإنه يقدر الإنسان إنه يحقق حلمه ويحقق طموحه العملي ويحقق طموحه مثلا المادي بتنظيم وقت وبتخطيط مسبق. السادسة في أسرتي من 6 أطباء وطبيبات. عندي رواية اسمها بنات الرياض، ترجمت إلى 40 لغة ومنشورة في دول عديدة حول العالم، والآن في صدد تحويلها إلى مسلسل تلفزيوني إن شاء الله في قناة HBO الأمريكية.
بالإضافة إلى أنك دكتورة إلا أنك تحب الكتابة وتعشق الروايات والقصص، هل هذه الأشياء أو مثلا الهوايات أو بعضها ممكن تعطي للدكتور ميزة بعيدا عن الرتابة؟
أعتقد كل إنسان يحتاج أحيانا يفصل من واقع الحياة ويرحل لمكان مفضل عنده أو محبب. أنا بالنسبة لي المكان هذا هو الخيال، أحب أخلق شخصيات وأعيش معهم وأشوف يومياتهم. يمكن هذا الشيء كنت أمارسه من وأنا صغيرة، كنت أكتب قصص في المدرسة، كنت أشارك في المسرح.
كنت فترة من الفترات دكتورة حديث الشارع في السعودية، هل أنت كنت تسمعي أن لازم تكوني مثيرة للجدل ولا هي جت في هذاك الوقت لأن الناس ما كانوا متعودين؟ وأيضا أصلا لو كان في هذاك الفترة أي حاجة بتصير بتكون مثار للجدل، وهل مواقع التواصل الاجتماعي الآن قاعدة تسمع الجدل بين الناس؟
لما صدرت روايتي بنات الرياض كانت قبل صدور وسائل التواصل تويتر والفيسبوك سناب شات، فكان أي شيء غريب أو أي شيء تفعله المرأة السعودية يمكن يكون مستهجن ومش متعودين عليه السعوديين. أنا بالنسبة لي وأنا أكتب صراحة ما كنت متخيلة كل هذه الضجة، ما كنت متخيلة أو يعني يمكن تخيلت إن الكتاب ينجح لأن الناس تحب تقراه، ما تخيلت إنه الشارع السعودي راح يكون مشغول فيه لسنوات يتكلم عن أنت مع أو أنت ضد، والمسألة تكون أكبر من إنها مجرد رواية وقصة.
الحين في مواقع التواصل الاجتماعي أو يمكن هي خلتنا نشوف الكتاب الجدد وصار بعد لهم انتقاد واسع إنه ما يصير مشهور في السوشيال ميديا أو شخص مو معروف، يعني تكررت الحادثة إنه ما يصير يكتب، فأنت وش رأيك؟
من حق كل إنسان يكتب، لكن التلقي من حق الإنسان اللي راح يقرأ. يعني إذا أنا ما أبغى أقرأ في هذا الموضوع ما أروح أساهم في نجاحه. فأعتقد إن مجرد إنك مشهور على السوشيال ميديا مو من حقك تكتب، هذا فيه تصنع ويعني